And good morning, everybody. It is Wonderful Wednesday with Alexandra Holovitz. Am I saying that correctly?
Yeah, super good.
Excellent. So currently you are living in Hungary. Yet we met at HypnoThoughts Live last year in Las Vegas. And I'm very excited to have you on here, Alexandra, because you have something very interesting to share with us all. And it is one of the things that people don't often talk about, yet it's something that everybody does. And it is one of the fundamental things to a relationship. So, Alexandra, tell us about your work. Take it away. Tell us about you.
Yeah, so thank you so much for having me here. It was such a delight to meet you last year and also to be here. So I began my journey about 8 years ago. I went down first the traditional path of training, so coaching, NLP, and then after I was kind of like, okay, I really love it, but everybody keep talking about their intimate life, relationship with me, and then I was kind of, okay, really it could be my path. So I went down to a business coach and we were half jokingly say, so what are you good at? And I was like, sex and sports. So he was like, there you go. You have the path. So it started as a joke, but then after I studied and then I became a sex coach. So first I was going down more on the path of like tantric training. So I have some background in tantra, and then basically like learning the energy, sexual energy, energetic orgasm, and more on like the somatic release. And then after the COVID, when it happened, then I was, couldn't travel, couldn't go places. So kind of this work didn't work. And then I started to study hypnosis. So that's how I got involved in the hypnotic community. So right now I really offer like more holistic approach, so kind of like mixing everything together, like hypnosis and body work, and it's more like a hypnosomatic approach, which
Love
I
it.
do believe that everybody needs to go in a holistic way, because we are not only our mind, or we are not only our body. So this is my path. And basically, originally I've been an economist. So I used to work in banking and corporate. So very different background. And mostly I love working with high achieving people. So I really can relate a lot of the things, how they not prioritize pleasure, right? So everything towards like work, achievement, doing things out of like success, but then somehow along the way they lose themselves and lose the touch with purpose. And that actually also was my path, where I was working in corporate in London, and I kind of felt like, wow, if this is going to be the end of my life, then probably I just burn out, and just, yeah, it was not really good. So I bought a one-way ticket to Australia, and then there we go. I spent 6 months traveling, writing a book about my travels and things like that. So it was really, really refreshing. And that's also where I met all these crazy tantric people, where I learned, oh, wow, this
Let me
is a
just ask
path.
you, Alexandra, just before we go on any more about the tantric,
Yeah,
because there'll be some listeners who are going, well, what is that? They've heard
yeah.
it, but can you break it down and explain what that is for our listeners? Because there will be some people who know, but I know there's going to bound to be a lot of people who don't know. Tell us,
Yeah.
what exactly is it?
Yeah, so Tantra is basically like a body awareness practice. The way that I like to explain, it's more about liberating yourself. So it can be like more like limiting beliefs, or more like learned behaviors into sexuality. There is big difference between like going down the traditional pathways of Tantra, which could be more like just practicing, similar like religious kind of thing. But then also the way that I practice Neo Tantra, which is like liberating your body through breath, sound, movement, and energetic works.
Okay, so limiting beliefs. Let's break that one down as well. Again, that's NLP hypnosis talk.
Yeah.
So a limiting belief might be within your sphere is that I can't orgasm, or who would want to touch me, or my I don't know, my penis.
Or the biggest one is like sexuality is something to be shameful about, right? Because if you've been in any kind of culture comes from, more restriction or religious background.
Okay, yeah. I see a lot of people for that they believe that some people that they still think that if they hold another boy's hand, they'll get pregnant. So if they kiss, if they swap saliva, they're going to get pregnant, and it's evil, it's bad. They mustn't be dirty. So it's and then the tantra is that about touch then as well, just sensory? Is it bringing in all the feels, sight, sound, hearing, touch, taste, smell? Is it?
Yeah, it's not a one-way path. Again, it depends on the tantric path that you follow. So it's a bit more complex than I think to explain like this. But like the way that we like to teach it is like the neo-tantric path is like getting in touch with your felt sense, right? And to be like liberated into feeling the joy, feeling the bliss, and not having this restriction around like, am I allowed to be sexy? Am I allowed to be expressive in my needs or desires? Am I be about to, to feel more kind of pleasure, orgasm, or just even talking about this, that it's sometimes for people so liberating, like just to tell their desires, like, okay, what do you want to experience? Or even just learning like conscious self-touch. It can be very liberating. So in the way that I like to explain, it's the liberation of mind and body, basically what I teach and what I learned the tantric path, right? And then to access, because also a lot of people don't understand that the sexual energy, right? When we talk about, some people think, oh, it's very woo-woo, but actually it's not, because you have the creative life force within you. Everybody have that. So it just depends. And again, if we're talking about the Tantra, it can be just this life chi that flowing, that when look at some people, and I have a teacher, she's like 80 years old and she look 50 because she learned to, circulate this amazing natural tantric energy that we all have inside, which is like basically life force energy.
Yeah, so, I love it. I love it. I couldn't agree more. And it's interesting because you're right. It is so liberating, and I see a lot of people who have had abuse in their lives, and so the sexual abuse. And that's why I had created the Bunny Talk process, because it's a way of for children, teens, adults, getting it out of them so that they can sort of, as I say, express it out of them without telling me the story. And then actually you're right, because they would potentially work with somebody like yourself moving forwards once they've got rid of all of that, a lot of those inhibitions and the shame and the guilt and the frustration, the hurt, the anger, so that they feel indifferent towards that, so that they can move on.
Absolutely.
And be with somebody like yourself and live a fulfilling sex life.
Yeah.
It's so important. So tell me, what are you speaking on at HypnoThoughts Live this year?
So the title is Orgasmic Mind, and it's about how to use your mind in order to have deeper confidence and transformation that lasts in your life. So again, not many people know, but actually when we do have an orgasm, most of it comes from our mind. So I like to teach my clients that once you can imagine something, you can have it, right? So especially for female, that we have amazing minds, so we can have like hands-free orgasm even just from breathing and thinking about different kind of scenarios, and it's just really fascinating. So the last year and a half I've been involving in the erotic hypnosis community, and it's truly fascinating to see how much our brain, it just can cause like to become multiple orgasm or hands-free orgasm, or just to be able to feel more sensation, right? Because the way I like to also, and the talk is going to be about that, it's not really about the orgasm itself, but it's like creating this orgasmic state of being again, right? So it's very important that we use our breath, and then how we move this energy, and then if we can attach some kind of suggestion or some kind of like, you know, outcome we would love, or maybe you had a memory where you were like so free and had this amazing sensation, so we can bring that back and just anchor it with hypnosis, right?
Absolutely.
To go even more. So yes, sign me up for that.
No, I think that's I do. I think that's really great. And for any of our other listeners listening to this, what could you suggest to them that they might do? I mean, what's a real quick thing that you might give to somebody so that they can feel that freedom? Because actually, I think it's that liberating freedom, isn't it, that people want? Because in order to have an orgasm, I think there has to be just nothing else. It's just that. You can't have the shopping list on your mind, or what you're going to make, or that you've got to take somebody to the hospital. You've got to do this. You know that they don't go together. It's just literally a whole, you know, bodily thing. So including the mind. So what is something that you would say to somebody?
Yeah, generally I like to encourage people to take 3 deep breaths. So like to really go and center their genitals. So while they're breathing in, like thinking if you are a female, you can focus on your womb. And if you are a guy, like you should focus on your testicles, right? And then just imagine like that the breath is coming down, circulating. And as you exhale, you get rid of all like, you know, thoughts and limiting beliefs or anything that you might have to do afterwards. And you just really centering, grounding yourself. And you can just say like, I allow, I allow, I allow. And then the way that basically, like even for you to try, like take deep breath, like 3 counts and 6 counts out, and just really focus on the energy. So you can even think about your favorite color that you maybe associate with pleasure. And then the way that you do it 3-5 times, you will immediately start feeling that you completely shift into your body. And that's the whole point, like having an orgasmic state, right? Because you, as you said, you can't have the orgasm just by thinking million thoughts. But once you come down and arrive to the body, then you become to feel that with the way that you're breathing, more sensation, more feeling, and maybe you imagine this, oh my God, this pink thing just growing inside, stronger, oh my God, like I love it, and so on. And then you can just basically convince yourself about like having this amazing orgasmic state, because it's all just a state. You can take on the state of like, oh, everything is so hard, like why should I get, you know, doing this or whatever. Or you can just say, okay, let's do an experiment. I do 3 or 5 breaths like this and see what happens.
Yeah.
And the more you do it, then the easier it gets. And then you will start to notice, oh, wow.
Yeah. And it's so true. I mean, the more you do it, you know. As well, it's just true, you know. Well, obviously in a safe environment, and with the, you know,
don't drive while you do this.
And with the you know, right attitude, right person, and in the right environment, you know, you know, could be and the appropriate age and all of those things. So it's but you know, so thank you. You know, I appreciate that. And I mean, do you have workshops? Where are you going with this, Alexandra?
Yes, so we just hosted with the Sexual Institute in America one workshop that we did like an orgasmic breathing for female. So what might also notice that most of the people need the permission slip, right? Like it's okay to show myself and it's okay to feel so good. And so usually I do like workshops. It's ongoing like around this topic. So either like the orgasmic mind or the orgasmic breath. I really love both of them. And then I work one-on-one with clients more deep. So if they, for example, as you mentioned, sometimes there is some blockage before then you can have an orgasm. I know that everybody wants to feel more pleasure, more connection, more intimacy, but sometimes we have to remove the armor or the block before that. So for example, if you had like a negative experience, that's where hypnosis comes in for me, that we can go back and then really rewire that scenario so you can leave that there, and then you can able to build on the more pleasurable sense. So I am a big believer, really, this holistic way of seeing things, and to see, okay, I'm not able to have more pleasure because I'm not allowing it, or because something along the path happened. And then if something happened, then just go back and remove that, and then you can fill it up. I like to say the metaphor or analogy about like, the gym is the same, that with this orgasmic pleasure or being multi-orgasmic and all these lovely things that people would want in the end. But obviously, if you just do it once or you go down once, it's same like the gym. You are not going to have a six-pack, wonderful body. You need to keep showing up and just taking the layers of, like, oh, okay, now I felt this, or this maybe a bad memory or shameful, or maybe you even hear sometimes people tell, oh, my mother told me this during the session, because there is almost so much conditioning around it, right? So that's where it's very lovely when we take someone into deep trance, because they stop thinking in a way that consciously, so then all the things can come up, really, that what causing that they're not able to have more orgasm. So it's a wonderful way, and I also believe there is always more available. So if you, for example, now experiencing maybe one or two different type of orgasm, that's wonderful. But there is, for both men and women, is possible about 7 types of orgasm. So you can always go in more expansion with this work.
Wow. And yes, no, I love that. Thank you so much for sharing this with us. So if somebody does want to get in contact with you, I take it you've got to, we'll put your website there. And what I really love though is that just going back to HypnoThoughts Live, is that we live in 2 different places. We actually see probably quite fairly different clients. A lot of people still having the same kinds of issues.
Yeah.
Isn't it interesting? So much of the work that you do, that I do, goes on in that head of ours, and it's all some form of self-hypnosis.
Yeah.
Because when somebody is having, as you say, an orgasm or having sex, it's focused attention. And it's utilizing their imagination, and they are focused. So everybody and anybody in the world is always doing some form of self-hypnosis, because they're focusing their mind on that moment in time. And just when they are in a when I see people and they almost seem to have hypnotized themselves into, as you say, those limiting beliefs, into these horrible thought patterns, belief systems of where they are unlovable, not worthy. Everything ties together. The whole thing, all of our work that all of our practitioners do, we're all in this kind of symmetry together, and we all. I love how we all help people to be the best version of themselves, so that they can enjoy life to its fullest. And as we all know, so many of the best things in life are free.
Yeah.
So it's like, And you know, and that's what it is. People don't, I mean, I know some people do pay for
You
sex, but
know, there is this saying to say that one orgasm a day keeps the doctor away.
there you go, there you go.
Just to be on the fun side of things, but
And
much
exactly.
better habit.
I love it, Alexandra. It is. It's about lightening. You know, this isn't a dirty subject. It is. It is. You know, one to be shameful of. But yet, so many people do. There is that whole shame thing around it. So I love that. But it's also very funny. I mean, some of the biggest laughs I've ever had has always been around, you know, sort of like double entendres or this or that. I mean, it just is. It's funny. And we have to bring in the humor, the comedy. It is so important because
Yeah.
it lifts and shifts all of those things. And, you know, and then it's very bonding for everybody. So I love it. I love that you're going to do that subject. I think it's great that you're going to get to speak, that you are speaking on that. So,
And I think also that, you know, we often intend to think we are the only one who going through a certain thing. So for example, if you are a female watching this and you may be experiencing that, you know, due to menopause or something, you are not as orgasmic as you used to be, or your libido is lower or so on, then you always think, oh my God, I'm the only one. So I think also that's why it's very important, these talks. Or even like as a guy, like going through, you know, midlife changes. I do believe, actually, I was just talking to a colleague of mine about this, that I do believe men also going through menopause, but they are just call it differently. So anyway, so I think also that when you begin to see, right, like this libido drop and things, that just to be like, okay, it's okay to ask support, and it's okay to acknowledge, because you don't have to go through a sexless marriage or life. And there is so many people, by the time they reach out to me, that they've been like couple years without sex. And also you can have, you know, as I mentioned, the conscious self-pleasure, which also very big theme that I love teaching people. So just using the tantric principles, the breath, sound, movement, and just how they can actually make their own body more alive, right? So I think that is super important to talk about. And also one other aspect I wanted to emphasize, because I do work a lot with high achieving people, which sometimes they haven't put together, but actually once you are very connected to your sexual energy, you can do much easier the business, the performance, and everything just coming, because your vitality and bliss is so much higher. So with less effort, you will be able to do things as well. So it's really incredible.
I like that. I like that. So first of all, you wanted to normalize some of these situations for
Yeah.
people. And now what you're saying is that actually you can raise everybody's vibration, literally, but if they feel good with their sex life, that it actually goes into all the other areas of life. Yeah. Because if they're winning there, then they're winning there. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's what we like. Take action, guys. Take action and raise your vibration.
Yes. And I think also that not to be ashamed, right? Like just to ask support. Like even if it just this talk inspired you to go, just talk to your spouse about these things, or reach out to me or Claudia. But just to be like more like, okay, it's not something that, you know, you should hide or not talk about. But I think it's very, very important to really the awareness, and then the integration, and then really to put it into like the embodiment or the daily practice. Because I think also sometimes we love this kind of great talks, oh my God, I'm so pumped up, you know, but then if you don't do anything with that information, it's still just information. So I really do like a very practical guideline as well, which where it comes, you know, the neo tantric path, that it has to be integrated into your daily life, which I think was also very important.
Yeah, lovely. And bring it in part as part of, and call it self-hypnosis. Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
So so because we all do that anyway every day. So
Yeah.
everything. So I love it. Thank you for being on here, Alexandra. I look forward to seeing you again at HypnoThoughts. I love that you're traveling all the way over, because it is such a long way. And I think, you know, I do. I take my hat off to you. It's not quite so bad for me, because obviously I live in North Carolina, but it's a long way for people. And you know, it's wonderful, because it's like 700 to 1,000 hypnotists, and the energy is absolutely fantastic. And as I say,
absolutely orgasmic.
and I get to meet so many new people, you know, like yourself, and I wonder who I'll get to meet this year as well. So it's absolutely fantastic. So yes, and I get to speak on. I'm doing a 1-star review, the ultimate compliment. Which will lead into me doing a load of emotional intelligence and diagrams and demos on people. But it's yeah, it's quite an interesting one. It's quite fun.
Nice.
But I don't need to go into that right now, because this was about you. So thanks for being on here, Alexandra.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for watching, everybody. It's goodbye from me, Claudia Ricard, and it's goodbye from Alexandra. So take care, everybody. Thanks for watching. Bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.